As I'm recording this, it is close to the end of July, but I intend to release this at some point in September. Hopefully on my YouTube anniversary. For the unknowing, it will have been 10 years since I started my YouTube account. But I don't come with good news or really any sort of appreciation or anything of that sort of nature. I'm going to do the thing that I've wanted to do and just silence it. 10 years ago, if you had asked me the same question, I probably would have just, well, no, it's probably not the best analogy I could probably give, because I wasn't exactly posting YouTube videos all the time back in 2011 either. I wouldn't have had the implication to be like, yeah, no, that wouldn't happen, because I was always under the implication it was going to be an experimental thing. I just didn't think that experiments were going to end up on a website that, quite frankly, doesn't really deserve it. This isn't scripted. I try not to script videos. I've tried to avoid the YouTube things all over the place because I just don't believe that is what YouTube is about. But what YouTube is about has really been making me having to think for the past while as to what I should really do regarding this channel. So, I'm gonna make 3 videos about this. All of these are going to be ranty bingo bongo videos where I just talk and there'll be a picture of something relevant, I suppose. I might even put some music in on the background just so then, you know, some people can have some stimulation instead of just listening to me talk nothing. I suppose it might be annoying to some people, but I can only make so many pictures, guys, and I'm not about to search up Google Images, and I know I'm supposed to make a video, but I'd rather just update and go, especially since these are going to be my last videos on the channel. This one in particular is going to talk about YouTube first, before I talk about the 2 other things that I want to talk about. My Splatoon project, and everything involving SM64, because you'd think I'd be done with this, but no, I apparently am not, so I'm going to address both of those subjects in 2 different ranty videos that will be released at the same time, but this is hopefully to cut down on length, because I don't necessarily want to be bombarding people who are interested in one thing for the other thing, so let's just get on it. When I joined YouTube in 2011, I joined in an environment that most people on the internet would call old YouTube. The idea that you just upload a video for free, no monetization, no partnership, no ads, none of this pretending to be the new television crap. Just, you make a crappy little video and you put it on the internet. Now, nothing about that YouTube is technically gone, if you were to put it in the most literal sense, but spiritually, it feels that way, that every part of that YouTube is now done and dead. And to have that happen in the span of a decade is, very telling, isn't it? I joined the internet at the age I'm supposed to. I didn't lie myself to get on the internet or anything, because, well, I didn't really have the capacity to understand viewing the backwards ends of like forums and stuff in those days. By the time I did find out, it was 4 months to my birthday anyway. So, and that was for Wikia. YouTube was only a couple months later after the fact. So, I make that point because I wasn't really doing any sort of inappropriate nonsense. I was where I was supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to do. I was eligible to join YouTube and make silly experimental videos. Most of my early stuff is just experimental clip merging with early Sonic stuff, because that was what I liked back then. And it basically tells itself. I was under the assumption, the idea that, you know, everyone has YouTube channels that have tons and tons and tons of different things on them, so I don't really, well, again, in 2011, I didn't really have any sort of predisposition to make my content about anything specific. You follow along with me, you follow along doing whatever the heck I do. And if you don't like it, you can just go. Now, this obviously is different because I have a second channel. Many people will be aware of it, because if they ever looked up anything with my name and Summer3's name in the title, you would end up with one of those commentary videos. And the reason I kept those on a separate channel was to keep the bloat off this one, to not necessarily say that I'm under a different name, because all of the videos have my username in the title, so it was not me trying to hide anything. It was more, if anyone was on my channel, they didn't need to see a dozen billion videos of me just basically crap posting nothing onto another channel while I sort of like basically did some other experimental things in the background. Plus, I don't think really anybody needed to see all of that, basically, for this channel specifically. It's not that the channel's content didn't need to be seen at all, just that you put it up on the internet. I would rather have that be in a contained space rather than this channel. But everything was supposed to be in one spot, and that was the way it was. I kept it that way because I didn't really want to follow the chain of what other YouTube people do, where they all monetize their stuff and all that, which is why things like what Nintendo did with all of the YouTube stuff they did throughout the decade never really bothered me so much. They did Content ID claim a large number of my SM64 videos simply for using music in them, and I never really cared because I wasn't one of those people who needed that supposed, like, the money from using someone else's music in my crappy little video that is just some teenager experimenting, doing nothing. I find current YouTube to be quite obnoxious in this regard. I haven't really liked TV for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people my age can relate to that. But even back in the day when TV was a thing, when I was a kid, I don't really think I was all that interested in it. And when YouTube came along specifically. Because by that point, it had become predictable, and this is me talking from the perspective of a person who watched a lot of cartoons in the late thousands before I got onto YouTube, and things were really becoming predictable for me. There were just so many predictable ads and setups and things that it got overwhelming, and I basically just wanted something that was more free. These days with YouTube, with everyone having these partnerships or monetization or any number of personal shills, it really bothers me when I just want to watch a silly little YouTube video from some random people posting on the internet rather than trying to act like there's some big biz person with some big biz thing. And this is personally why I tend to avoid a lot of the checkmark channels as well, because it sort of feeds into why I really want to get this point across. I want to be done with this channel, with this thing, because YouTube is not the way it was anymore. And it's not just because some other people decide to be more professional than I am, because that was the case all the way back, like, even as far back as 6 years ago. But yet, I still persisted, so why is it so bad now? I'll do the thing that I have done with most other social media that I've left. It will be kept as an archive. I'm not going to delete the videos, but I'm not going to necessarily upload any new ones. Here, at the very least. I don't necessarily want to stop making videos altogether, but the website of choice that I'm using is not going to be YouTube. I'm not going to particularly say where, but it shouldn't really be that hard to find me elsewhere if you really, really are interested. Because that sort of ties into what I have been thinking about, is that, look, I appreciate that you all like the Star Road stuff, because, look, I understand, I was like you, like back in 20, whatever it was when I uploaded them, there were no uploads of those music tracks anywhere on YouTube. And there weren't any that you could, like, download on any separate websites or whatever, and trying to rip, the songs as they sound from the emulator is pain. I don't know how much easier it is nowadays, but I don't really care. But while I appreciate their attention, I feel they've sort of bloated my sort of importance in a way. Because prior to whatever the spike was those videos obviously gave in subscribers to my channel, I wasn't getting many people. And the Star Road stuff, I think, was right around the same time I was still making other SM64 stuff. So I guess I didn't really have any sort of idea that maybe my artificial inflation of sorts is due to, like, those videos specifically. But now that I've taken so long between things because of my projects, that I've been able to visually see how much those videos, not even just, you know, staring it out on Linux or something, mostly just comments that people actually put on, I've really become observant to what they've done. And it's not that I'm going to suddenly remove them, but I feel like they've given a false sense of importance to my channel that I don't necessarily agree with. And I don't really care if anyone in the comments is gonna be like, but I still care about you. It goes a whole lot deeper than that. I really don't want to go into every single nook and cranny in this gobbledygook, because I can go on for hours about this sort of thing. But to sort of, I'm just going to be a little bit blunt here, because I don't really have any sort of personal attachment to keeping anything like this a secret. On YouTube, at the very least, I would like to presume, and okay, before I make this presumption, I know I'm the person who also made a video about generalizing and how annoying that can be, so I'm going to preface this with, I know not everyone is like this, and I know obviously there will be some people who could very well be typing in the comments or whatever, but I still care about you, and I'm not like those other people. Great, cool. But this is just what I tend to think after what I have observed over a period of time, especially considering the places I've even been involved with, so I sort of have room to stand on in regards to my opinions on this. I tend to find that the people on YouTube that tend to subscribe, especially if all they have done is listen to a few Star Road loops over and over, is the type of person who I don't really want to be following, because they're the types of people who most likely, again, I'm absolutely tossing every single... This is a very fragmented assumption I can even make, so please understand I'm saying this with the utmost grain of saltiness ever, because this is purely from what I've observed and not really completely applicable to every single person that I'm putting under this umbrella in the first place. Maybe some of you are outside and you're sitting in the rain of sugar. I don't know. It's when people tend to subscribe just for the Star Road stuff, it doesn't really help, because I've uploaded it all already. I'm not about to upload any more, unless there were some more beta things that I missed, but I don't think that's ever going to happen anytime soon, and even if it did, I'm not about to really drag out Project 64 for that. I don't really want this whole video to be about SM64. I'm gonna talk mainly about that in another video. Podcasty thingo. I feel I'd do better as that with that, to be quite honest, but I haven't really been able to find a site for that. But anyway, most people who tend to subscribe for that, or even the tutorials that I made for Gmod, don't really tend to be the type of people who, like, actually want to say things that aren't what I feel obvious, or things that are already addressed. Because, like, those types of people and some other types of people tend to be the types of people who will use YouTube videos that I post as a social media grab to try and get my attention. This is what annoys me, because even back in the day there was an inbox system and nobody used it because they were all too content with spamming the comments trying to get my attention for seemingly completely unrelated things. In case you're not aware, a YouTube comment section is supposed to be a comment section about the video in question, or something in the video in question. It's a comment on the video. It's not a random social media page in which you can just use it to try and get my attention because I'm gonna get rid of it. And there are plenty of people who have done particularly that on what is supposedly my latest video at the time. Those comments get swiftly deleted because I'm not about to start treating YouTube as Twitter. And I left that site recently, so but even without that, I don't tend to be the person who wants to treat random unrelated things as my social media. I understand the skepticism some people have had when I say, go to Twitter, go to Twitter, go to Twitter, and they probably have their own opinions and probably didn't use Twitter to follow me at all. Because, you know, very understandable. I mean, I would probably be in your position too if I were constantly being shilled to go to Twitter. I mean, it's the same with people with their YouTube videos nowadays with all the Patreons and stuff. I mean, I know you need money, but dang it. I only came across you from my recommendations on the front page. I don't need the, I don't need the shilling, thanks. So, like, look, I get that. And, like, again, I say again, I'm not trying to shove every single person under that umbrella, but there's a lot of people that do. And, like, but again, like, I've been on the website for 10 years, so, like, again, it's not necessarily that these people if they exist, they do, but they're not necessarily a specific one person that you can go and witch hunt or whatever, because yeah, that's gonna solve your problems. But like, it does get pretty draining. Back in the day, I would like have a few creators who talked about, yeah, let's make a video about leaving, and they wouldn't really say if it was anything to do with that, but you know, your tone sort of implied that, and like their tone sort of implied that, and to me back in the day it felt kind of strange, but now I sort of get it. It's but it's not necessarily anyone's fault here in this particular circle why it's been harder and harder for me to consider making things. Even with long breaks in mind, it's really hard for me to consider making things. I'm more of a person who just wants to talk, talkity, and do things rather than make videos about it now. Because editing my voice is awful. Not because I hate the sound of my voice. I've done it for like 10 years. I think I'm pretty well adjusted to the sound of my own voice now. But it's not really that. It's when I do stupid things like make long silences or repeatedly say things. It's awkward. You'd think this would be fixed with like scripts, but I don't like to script. There are a few videos on this channel where I have scripted, where either I'm reading the thing word for word, or it's like bullet pointed or something. And you can tell when it's me just reading from a page, because I can read from a page really well. Unfortunately, that's all that I can really do if I'm not having casual conversation talk me in this, which this is kind of bullet pointed, but I don't really want to like follow the script perfectly, because then you'll easily be able to tell I'm not really very sporadic. But it's mostly the website itself. The website itself encourages most of this stuff, especially because of its algorithms. YouTube wants... No, that's not the right word now. I could have said that maybe in 2015 or 16 or 17, but wants is a bad word for that. That's sort of me pretending to be optimistic while the reality really needs to set in. No, YouTube is the new TV. I mean, you even have actual TV trying to force all of their junk down your throat, and I'm talking even the stuff that, quite frankly, doesn't really help the current situation. What that current situation is, I'll leave that to your imagination, but the website itself encourages this, and it encourages it to the point where it has deleted dozens of videos that could sort of help. I'll leave it at that. And even if what I do doesn't really affect anything, even back with that whole copper thing, even when that didn't really affect me, like, at least then it didn't really matter so much, because all of my videos are for like people who were like me, assuming that there was an individual copy-paste like me. There isn't, but who does come on the internet at 13 and doesn't lie and figures out things like that, you know. Because there are way too many kids at 12 years old who lie, and even at 13, you're not prepared for the internet. It's just that's the age where you're sort of at the capacity to totally understand that sort of thing. I had thought about lying, but then I decided against it, and I'm glad I did, because you're really not prepared at 13 for the internet. Never mind YouTube. I don't like the idea that young children are on the website already. Just do something else. Plenty of other things that are catered to kids at that age, instead of doing something they're not really supposed to, that has no benefit to them. But even with that in mind, with that whole thing, it didn't really affect me that the video was not for kids, because like as if they're gonna care about something that I'm doing where I'm not even gonna give them money for it. Okay, maybe they do. Maybe they get extra bucks off my content claims, but whatever. Even if I'm not really in the line of fire, I don't necessarily want to be there, especially with my now current views on everything compared to all of that time ago. I don't feel it's right to be claiming that I'm not on a thing and then, you know, then being on the thing where I don't want to be. So as I've said, it will be kept as an archive. And most of the things that I sort of planned, they weren't really planned. I don't really plan things the same way a lot of other people do. They're mostly just, oh, I might do it at some point, and then I just don't do it. Nostalgia content was sort of a spur-of-the-moment thing, and any other experimental content along that vein was also not really going to be a continuation. I mean, I probably could record that game that I couldn't record. I would probably just need to use OBS for it, assuming that it could actually do it. But I don't have the motivation to want to anymore, especially considering after the whole Kid Pics thing, where everyone loved the Kid Pics one for some reason, even though it wasn't really any different from any other video I had made. And then I decide to do a bunch of storybook games, and no one even cares because they don't look up the titles for those. So, and it's not as if I wanted to specifically cater towards people with anything. As I said, I was just experimenting. My whole channel has been about experimenting, but when one video gets completely overshadowed and the others... when one video completely overshadows the others, to the point where people are continuing to see that video instead of others, it kind of seriously bothers me, because I don't like the idea that people are just getting recommended by the algorithm one specific video and then they just jump off to the next one like it's some sort of automated slideshow that they don't even have to put in any effort into doing themselves for. Yeah, I don't like YouTube's autoplay features. I really don't like that you can actually just not use your mouse or your touch thing, yes, phones, or your touch screen, and have the thing play itself while you do actually nothing. This is what I mean by YouTube becoming the next TV. It already is. It's on by default in every single setting. You have to actually enable a cookie in order for it to not do that. So... no, I don't like it. I've never liked it, and I've wanted it gone the moment it came in, so... I'm gonna move to other sites. For precisely that reason. It's been a fun ride, but, I'm gonna gonna heck off. Before, you know, all is over. I'll still use this account to comment and browse, but don't do the thing where you stalk me all over the place like some other big name people do, please. I don't want to be known as that person who... Oh! They showed up in the comments section! Hello, famous person. No, really. Honestly, please don't. You do that, I'm cringing. So, the first thing is, I had said a while ago, many times, that I wanted to do tutorials of a sort, of things that I wanted to do to show off how I did Gmod things, mostly for my project. I'll go over this a little bit with the Splatoon stuff, but I do want to do that, but it's very difficult to know where to start, and especially because a lot of it requires a lot of experimenting with things, and a lot of it is very complicated things. You have to be in a certain mindset, and this is also why I don't really want to be doing this on YouTube, because the types of people who understand these sorts of tutorials, like, it's the kind of tutorial you're going to need some sort of intermediate knowledge of basic things before I can even start explaining things to people. Because, yeah, it's not like you can just suddenly go from the layperson just playing a Nintendo Switch to, oh yeah, now I can do things in. No, it's not like that, because I was already the kind of person who was experimenting with like flashcards and stuff before that point. And by experimenting, all I mean is just messing with a few cheat codes and save hacking and stuff like that. So, like, I can't just toss a bunch of videos onto YouTube, especially considering that, like, even the people that I've talked with have been people who don't really get it. Just the one example. Back in that group, the group I talked about in the ranting with people I don't associate with anymore, that one was me reading a big old Word document word for word. And, one person asked me to make a tutorial for them on how I collision in Gmod. Said video was unlisted on my channel, and it was a very long video where I mostly tried to show off how I did things in Blender. They didn't even watch it in the end. It was unlisted, and I linked it to them, because, you know, obviously, but they were not even willing to even, like, watch it, let alone do anything in it after the fact, so they basically made me do a whole bunch of work for nothing. This person was already in the group, making things for the group, which were of bad quality, and then they left a couple years later, because obviously I can't have the motivation to do things the terrible way I've been doing them. That's a heavy simplification, but I don't really want to be making tutorials for people that, and I understand this is sort of paradoxical, but I don't really want to be making tutorials for things that I'm doing for the people who will not just... It's not that you need to get it immediately, it's that if you're not even going to try, like, I don't even wanna bother. Like, why should I put in the effort when you won't, basically? And, like, if you're the one who's asking for it, basically, so... I'm going to make 2 other talkies, talking about everything I feel about Gmod and Splatoon and all that, and, everything about, the SM64 lot. I imagine one's going to be a whole lot longer than the other, but, you know, they're my 2 biggest YouTube thingos, so I should probably address those in their own videos. It's bad enough that people have to listen to 40 minutes of this. Let's just split it up. So, 10 years of this channel, huh? Oh well. I'll be on other websites. I'm not gonna stop making videos forever and all time. But on YouTube, nah. No, nada. It will be left up for all to see, and that's it. I'm done. Bye-bye.